Well, we're back again with yet another No Fluff analysis, and this time we're going to be talking about the Gala Dragalia Summon Showcase, available from the 30th of October until the 4th of November UTC. Let's get straight to it with the dragon added with this showcase, the 5-star water dragon, Gala Reborn Poseidon, the Courageous Seafarer. Gala Poseidon's skill is Atlantean Flood, dealing 1047.2% damage over 2 hits to a target and nearby enemies. At the end of a shapeshift, if the user is targeting an enemy and not currently using a skill, Atlantean Flood will be used automatically, regardless of whether or not the skill gauge is filled. Gala Poseidon's first ability grants water units plus 70% strength, and his second ability grants water units Fury of the Seas, which is a plus 30% to the damage modifier against flame enemies, which is typically 150% for 45 seconds, every time the dragon gauge fills by 10%. This buff does not stack and has an activation cooldown of 5 seconds. In terms of abilities, Gala Poseidon slightly overtakes Siren regarding their bonuses to overall skill damage, once Poseidon's conditional bonus is activated through gaining some dragon gauge. Adventurers that get a lot of value out of their standard attacks and force strikes may find that Poseidon works out even better for them overall. Before the additional 30% modifier though, a base level of plus 70% strength is still decent. My only concern is that if you're attempting to cheese a fight, the slightly reduced damage before you get your first bit of dragon gauge may cause some damage issues. But if that hurdle is cleared, then Gala Poseidon should also be viable for cheese clears, though hard to justify pulling for if you already have a max unbound Siren. The 2 activation ability of Gala Poseidon's skill is pretty interesting. If your dragon form is forcibly ended by damage and you're not in the middle of this dragon skill, it automatically triggers the skill. Thanks to Devil Cheeky from my community Discord for helping me test this, invite link in the description. Note that the requirement to not already be casting a skill for the second cast to activate means that the typical pattern of transforming and using a dragon skill over the duration of a mechanic, intending to sacrifice the dragon, will cause you to lose out on the second cast. So you may need to relearn your behaviour when it comes to using Gala Poseidon to tank mechanics. One final note on Gala Poseidon. While his abilities are good, it does seem that his skill and attack damage mods are pretty low, settling at around the power level of dragon forms pre 2.0. This means that you're mostly discouraged from transforming, or you'll want to keep your transformation time as short as possible while using Gala Poseidon, unfortunately. Hopefully this is rectified in the future, but in the meantime it means that Tiki and Urius get all the benefits of Gala Poseidon without the downside of a weak transformation. The adventurer added in this showcase, and not Gala and thus permanent, is the 5-star water rapid fire Manacaster, Lapis, the Blue Rose. Lapis's first skill is Fantastic Flight, dealing 1279% damage over 2 hits to a target and nearby enemies, dispelling a buff from each of them. This is shareable for 5 skill share points. Lapis's second skill is Graceful Bullet, dealing 3010% damage over 2 hits to enemies ahead, and deals additional damage based on the number of buffs Lapis has, up to an extra 80%. Each buff grants plus 5%, while each Stronger Bullets buff adds 20%. The Stronger Bullets buff, currently unique to Lapis, increases her critical rate by 4% and can stack up to 3 times. All stacks are consumed by Graceful Bullet. Lapis has the standard Manacaster Gauge Accelerator co-ability, and for her Chain co-ability she grants water units plus 10% flame resist at 10 combo or above. Her first ability is Modus Operandi. Dispelling a buff from an enemy reduces the enemy's water resistance by 5% for 30 seconds and grants Lapis 1 stack of Stronger Bullets. Her second ability is Stun Resist, and her final ability is Blossoming Rose. Lapis gets a stack of Stronger Bullets for every 30 hit combo. So Lapis seems to be a really fun addition to the cast and the first water Manacaster. The 4-strike available to rapid fire Manacasters has an incredible SP gain, gaining roughly 800 SP per second, as well as rapidly stacking combo. While she doesn't bring status afflictions for the purposes of deactivating buffs against the twins, her fast charging Dispel should help dampen the rate at which their buffs stack. For her overall combat loop, it seems like Lapis wants to constantly be 4-striking to build combo and Stronger Bullet stacks from Fantastic Flight and Blossoming Rose, before unleashing Graceful Bullet to consume stacks. In terms of the overall meta, it's unfortunate that Lapis has a cap on how much skill boost she can get for her S2, as I feel like she could have been monstrous without it in a room with Karina. but with her base mod of 3010% on her S2, she should be able to perform admirably nonetheless. While not part of the showcase, but still part of no fluff analysis, I'm going to go over the Wyrmprints added with the last update, the first of which is the 5-star Wyrmprint Welcome to the Opera, granting 25% Shadow Blighted Punisher. I'm guessing that this is going to be a new affliction available to Opera Carina and will become a standard affliction print to use on any adventurers inflicting this. Assuming Opera Carina is a Shadow adventurer, and since Shadow Blight's a new affliction, overcapping it will be unlikely compared to Poison, so it might even be worth it for Opera Carina's teammates to use this. However, it doesn't fully replace the Plaguebringer since it uses a different Wyrmprint slot, not to mention changing prints around based on the presence of a single adventurer is pretty fiddly. Still, this print leaves me wondering why there isn't a Flash Burned Punisher for Ilia. The 4-star print added with the update is Enter the Blue Rose, which grants Manacaster units 12% critical rate. Much like a Passion for Produce, an equivalent print for daggers, this will likely be used for all Manacaster units due to just being shy of single-handedly meeting the Wyrmprint critical rate cap. Added with the event, the 5-star event print is Free Spirited Opera, granting Strength -10 and Strength Debilitator. This is very interesting. In exchange for -10% strength, you gain a 10% chance with your standard attacks to reduce the enemy's strength by 10% for 10 seconds. This debuff doesn't stack, but it does bring a bit of utility. I can see this being used on healer or support, / buffer roles with some breathing room when it comes to keeping people alive. Of course, defensive abilities like this only have a tangible benefit if they prevent a death or otherwise change the flow of battle, since for many adventurers the only important hit point is the last one, or certain HP breakpoints like 30% or 70% for specific abilities. If this suddenly means you can survive certain mechanics with a cheese strategy though, this might see some use, but otherwise finding a specific niche case use for this will come down to experimentation. Overall for the showcase, Gala Reborn Poseidon looks to be an upgrade over Siren in the majority of situations. Buffer units will likely still want to use Gavner and Trenna since the skill charge effect is still incredibly powerful. If you have either of these dragons max unbound, I feel like gunning for Gala Poseidon is mostly a luxury rather than a must. As for Lapis, she seems to fill mostly a selfish DPS role, and the ability to dispel might be minorly useful against the twins. She doesn't bring any frostbite or freeze to a fight, nor does she bring any team buffs. In addition, her S2 has a cap to the benefit she can get from buffs, preventing a Carina situation like before, but otherwise she should be fine to play, if not optimal. As always, thank you very much for watching until the end. Tomorrow's Halloween, and well, there is a stream scheduled for that day too, so who knows, maybe come along and you might see a costume. Until then, take it easy, stay safe, and I wish you luck in your upcoming polls.